I know that 6 of us are here. Did Erin say she was not coming, or?
Right.
That's correct. I didn't
She's
know
on
that.
vacation.
Is there a child here that wants to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Monica? Oh. I'm kidding.
I'm taking everything I can not to like.
Sorry, I just couldn't resist. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we do anything tonight, we had an unfortunate situation. We had an employee who recently passed away, Ms. Keithley. And after talking with Dr. Berger and Elizabeth, we thought it would be appropriate if we remember her and have a moment of silence for her. So, please. And please note, I think she has a junior next year or a senior? Junior. So keep the child in your thoughts as she navigates her junior year. Did Dr. Gaines join?
He's waiting. You ready? Should I?
Go ahead, yeah, go ahead. Dr. Gaines, can you hear me?
Okay. Wilson.
Dr. Gaines, can you hear me?
I can.
So the reason I asked Dr. Gaines to join us is we're going to recognize Mary tonight. I thought it would be nice if he made the announcement about Mary's appointment. So Dr. Gaines, you kind of want to explain to us what Ed Plus does and make the announcement?
You bet. Thank you. So Education Plus has been around actually since 1928. It was started by a group of school districts that wanted to take advantage of some economies of scale, mostly around purchasing. And over time, it has grown to do all sorts of things, but mostly our three main legs are professional development for teachers, principals, pretty much all school personnel. We host a number of small events, and then we have some larger events. We have a conference that is specifically for support staff. We have a conference that is specifically for EL teachers, and then we kind of have a bigger one that's for everybody, and then we have a superintendent summit as well. This second leg of kind of what we do is cooperative purchasing. We bid a number of items so that school districts don't have to go through that process. So we have everything from roof vendors to furniture vendors to electric vehicle charging station vendors. So we've got all of that kind of available for everybody to take advantage of. And then the third leg of what we mostly do is advocate on behalf of public schools in the region. When I say region, our owner member districts are in Jefferson County, Franklin County, St. Louis and St. Charles, and Warren and Lincoln counties. So we serve about a 6-county area, and we have a staff of about 65 people that work out in schools, that do our cooperative purchasing piece, that just do kind of some staff development kind of things. And so we also have a board of directors, and that board of directors is made up of 4 superintendents and 4 school board members kind of across the region. And we've kind of broken those areas up into pretty much kind of 4 regions. So we'll have some board members from St. Louis County. We'll have some from kind of a combination of Franklin and Jefferson County, and then board members from what we call the Tri-County area, which is really St. Charles, Lincoln, and Warren counties. So our nominating committee, our superintendents, and our board of directors have approved that Mary Graper will join our board July 1 as a board member representative from the Tri-County area. Superintendent representative from the Tri-County area is Dr. Jason Seifert, who's at St. Charles. So happy for Mary to join our board, and all other board service will start July 1. We don't meet every month. We'll meet about 6 or 8 times a year, and so our first meeting will be in August. So we welcome Mary Graper to the Ed Plus board.
Thank you. I was honored to be asked to join, so thank you.
So anyway, thank you, Dr. Gaines, for joining us and making that announcement. Unless you have anything else, you feel free to listen in our board meeting, or feel free to hang up.
Thank you, Dr. Gaines.
Well, we had a horse get hurt last night, so I had to go help Debbie deal with that. So,
All right. Well, you take care of yourself, and take care.
Thank you, Dr. Gaines.
all right, thanks.
Goodbye. And then finally, you want to do this thing now?
Yes, let's do that.
So Beth has taken the initiative to help us recognize Dr. Berger on his retirement as a board. So I am going to let her. What's happening?
Okay, yes, all right, this is for the 7 of us with sincere gratitude
Awesome.
and appreciation.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Kyle.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
So you two want to get a picture?
It's-
Well, I think we should all get a picture.
Get
Is
a
Morgan
picture.
here?
Yeah.
No, I'll get it.
Okay, all right.
You get it.
Yeah, it's your last meeting, we should
So
all.
that-
All in between the flags? Is that
Yeah,
right?
let's do it in between the flags.
Sorry.
And you have to Photoshop Aaron in. I mean, it works great. Just put her head behind one of us.
Oh, yeah, we're not really between the
Yeah,
flags.
you're putting it in all.
Right here by
Bring it
Mary.
in.
Can you squeeze in here by Mary?
There you go, cover us. Thank you.
Yeah, that's where I want to be.
My hands awkwardly, let me put the.
Stop it, please.
But anyway, thank you, Dr. Brown. Thank you very much.
And I had said it a gazillion times early in my tenure. I'll repeat it. It's been an honor to serve the community, the board, school district, and thank you for the opportunity. So we'll be turning it over to Dr. Salvo in good hands very soon. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, next thing we need is an motion to approve and adopt the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I heard 6-0. The Missouri School Board Association Board Report. Elizabeth, please.
My screen's back in order here. That one.
Amy, while she's doing that, where's the public comment? Did anybody sign up?
Thank you, guys.
I think the public comment is the next one.
Oh,
You can bring both up. Thank you.
that one.
Thank you. All right, let's see if we're ready here.
It's so quiet without all of our principals.
Is this relief time? What is it? Relief?
At ease.
Eddie's
Hold on,
time.
Let me turn the video off real quick here. Maybe it'll play.
Well, welcome.
Stop sharing. For viewers here. Andrew, got any ideas?
Sounds like my
Technology road?
Sounds like my WebEx call today.
Thanks.
It's just, this has happened before. I was doing video and the video.
Fish. You know?
Can I make a motion to push this until later, once we have technology figured out?
I second that.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move the MSBA board report to later on in the meeting. So there are, per what Dr. Salvo said, there are no public comments. So we'll move on to Wright City High School updates. So Dr. Berger.
Yeah, we're at the high school, so Bobby, take us through those.
How's everybody doing tonight? Good. So we had a drier month than last time we were meeting, which is good and bad. A lot of moving parts, so I guess right now what you're looking at is a rendering of the front of the building.
Sorry, I'm gonna get
Oh, you're
the
good,
other
Elizabeth.
window up. I gotta go to this one, no.
Still at ease?
See. Trying to make it pretty here. Oh, well, I guess we'll just, yeah,
It's all right, just talk to Elizabeth.
We have it on our computer, so we're good.
there we go, maybe that's the button now.
So the ongoing work right now largely is interior finishes, so areas A, B, C, and D. A and B much more so than C and D, but finishes are going on. Flooring's going in, tile in the bathroom's going pretty steadily. We've got drywall finishing going on the interior. On the exterior, and casework as well is going in, so windows and casework as well. We just started setting doors and hardware in area A, so A, B, and C to follow suit. On the exterior side of the building, working on grading between rainstorms, so there's a lot of rock out there that we're shaking out. We got to bring topsoil over and cap that off. So working through that, the sheet metal workers are doing the architectural sheet metal around the building. So that work's ongoing. The front structure, the canopy, that is erected and being framed out now, ready to receive sheathing and ultimately the composite panels to go up. So that work's ongoing. Starting next week, we'll do all the lateral tie-ins. Starting at the beginning of the front of the building at the main entrance. Once that work's completed, we'll get it capped off with rock and get the concrete in that area established. We've got a clean means of access into the building and into the finishes. So this is kind of the exciting part of the project where the building envelope is really close to being wrapped up. With that, with the building envelope being wrapped up, now you can do finishes safely. You don't have to worry about water infiltration, that type of thing. So that's the direction we're going. Right now, we do still have roofing going on in two sections of the building. So area G, which is the cafetorium, and also area B, or large B, we call it the library stacks. We've got to get that under roof. We had some steel changes there that prevented us from doing that prior. We're at the stage now that we can go after the roofing, get that in the dry, and then get that finished out as well. So a lot of moving parts. There's an aerial shot of the west elevation, which is the front of the building. North elevation here on the north side of the building. The concrete was poured. It was kind of a big milestone. So from ultimately like the back side of the last parking lot of the storm shelter, all the way down beyond the creek and then into the baseball field parking, all that concrete is finally cured out so we can access it and drive on it. That was about, I want to say somewhere around 1,300 yards of concrete that got poured last week or about a week and a half ago. The football field, so where we're at currently on that, we're got a change that goes with the board tonight for approval, but pending approval to take care of the back side of that hillside. We're tentatively set up next week to go after the spread footings to start the work for the bleachers on that home hillside. Any questions, concerns, comments?
Kyle, any questions?
Are we still tracking to major completion early this fall?
Yeah, we're still tracking same way. So basically all areas will be turned over by 10/10 with the exceptions of F and G, and then we'll turn those over in the dates that we'll move. So So by 12/19, you'll have.
Heidi, you just
I have
a question?
nothing, thank you.
Mary?
No, I have nothing.
Dave?
Excuse me, what's your estimate of percent complete?
I'd say roughly 80, 85 maybe.
I have.
I don't have anything, thanks, Molly.
Hey, Austin, I have a quick go back.
Sure,
and
go for it.
Dr. Berger, doubt you know this off the top of your head, but with the major completion in October and then final in December, all of the furnishing that we'll be purchasing, are we not going to be moving that in 19 December or more like November timeframe?
No, but as soon as they give us an SC on any of those
There it is. We can
ABCs,
start
we'll be
putting
moving in,
stuff in. Perfect.
yeah, before we occupy. So yeah, they've worked pretty extensively with, actually with Ed Plus, where we purchased our furniture through their program, and with Wright Construction for the schedule on that. You know, I'm sure you can elaborate, because I know Dr. Wade,
Sure.
you worked more on that.
But yeah, no, our intent is to actually, you know, if the district wants it, to hand over some of the areas earlier than the original substantial completion date, with the mindset that hopefully it would make your life easier as a district, moving things in pieces rather than come in one foul push and do it. That's all barring AHJ approval and ultimately life safety with the fire marshal. We have had those meetings. We know the criteria that needs to be met. Really what needs to be met is life safety. So barring that, you know, we have an area that's punched out, that we get a chance to go in, get the punch list complete. If that's earlier than those dates, we're happy to turn it over to you. And I think we'll have some areas to turn over to you. I think largely, I believe Dr. Wade was looking at later in October, beginning of November to start the move.
Any other questions? I have none, but thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, the next part of this agenda item is the change orders, correct, Dr. Berger?
That's right, change order 17. We'll have, yeah, just pull up that summary page, that first page, and maybe Bobby and maybe between you and Eric can just outline those just a brief.
Yeah, you
The
bet.
board is pretty familiar with those, with the exception we put on there PCO 94 pretty late in the game. But
Sure. Happy to explain them. Start at the top here. It's PCO 79. This is for additional steel in area B, which again, we're talking about the library when I say B. So what this was, where your joists and your girders line up, there was a piece of vertical steel that had to be added. We asked an RFI on how to basically get the roof to plane out. The structural engineer came back with this fix. So what that $1,800 is for the additional steel itself, the steel members. PCO 85, this is a no-cost change for the visitor bleachers. And to explain this one a little bit, so it's in our bid documents to remove one of the existing sets of bleachers from the high school, break that down, transport it, and reset it. In talking to Dr. Way, there's some timing constraints of when we may, the district preferred to move it. So rather than entertain an additional mobilization from the company that's doing this work, they proposed just giving you guys a new set of bleachers for the same cost. Ultimately, it's more material but less in labor. They were able to get the dollars to work. So you guys get to keep the one at the existing facility at the high school, but you're just getting one in its place, is what that is. PCO 87, this is additional concrete for the hillside bleachers. What this was a civil design miss on the back of the hillside. So last time we came to you guys about the spread footings, we got laid out to do that work. Our surveyor came out, shot the points, quickly realized that there was an error there with the concrete where they was going to sit back on the hillside. And what makes this so important is these bleachers have to meet ADA requirements. So ultimately, to take the concrete all the way over to this, to the backside of the hill, or backside of the bleachers, and have it's a 1 inch offset is all it is, with a ramp that brings it up. To meet that compliance, as we step towards the bleachers, you also lower an elevation. So it required a stem wall and a footing, the length of that, and really that's what this cost is picking up, in addition to the 5 additional feet of concrete for that length. PCO 88, this is surface mounted canopy steel members. So these are the canopies that are furnished and installed by Lawrence Fabrics. This is separate from the front of the building. What these are steel, basically these steel brackets mount to the block. The elevation that's provided, there's hollow cells in the block there. They don't have a bond beam at these locations. So we, again, asked the RFI, the fix was to add weld metal to them, so we can anchor in a point that's solid for the canopy for the wind loads. So that's what that cost is picking up. And again, 88 is for the steel, for that only, that's not the erection of that steel. PCO 90, this is for all the area B and G steel erection for the steel items noted above. So this was handled as time and material labor to do this work. Once we got the work completed, we got the tickets collected, verified the time daily, and then that's what this cost is here. That's reflected in PCO 90. Then PCO 94, this was an owner requested change. This was to add casters to the shelves for all the shelving for the kitchen, so it's more mobile and help your food and beverage team get food and beverages where they need them. Any questions on that? I know I covered them very briefly.
Dr. Burge, you want to add anything before we go to questions?
I don't think so.
I have none. I'm disappointed in the civil miss, but I don't think I can at this point, do anything about it. I'll do something about it later, but not now. I can talk about it later, but no. Beth?
I don't have anything.
No, I agree with Austin.
Secondly, agree with Austin, but no other questions.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Okay, so what we need is based upon this. The thing I will say, about the errors in the mission, we're still well within our tolerances and stuff like that. So I think still the project is, from what I understand, is still moving along at a good rate, and we are plenty of contingency left, correct?
We're in good shape.
So we're still in good shape. So I think that's the silver lining that to take from this. Okay. Need a motion to approve the change order number 17 for the new high school as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I heard 6-0. Thank you very much, Bobby.
You bet.
Stay safe and stay cool.
You bet. Thank you.
Tell your workers anything.
Dr. Berger, I just want to say it's been a pleasure. And
Oh, thank you very much, Bob.
Enjoy retirement.
Thank you, appreciate
You got
it.
it.
Do you want to try the video now, see if it's quicker in, or?
Yes.
Can you just push play real fast?
Done that several times. And we
It
can still
doesn't-
open the link up again.
If this doesn't work, then we're going to just
We're
have
okay to
everybody-
watch it at home.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
You have a homework assignment now.
All right.
We've got over.
Sorry about that, guys.
No worries. All right.
All right, we're on corporate evaluation.
So your homework assignment is to watch the MSBA video, and then we'll talk about it in the July meeting if you have any questions. Okay, next one is Glenn has his food service.
Hi.
How you doing, sir?
Glenn, good to see you.
So on the report, there's a couple of typos. I thought I found them all, but I'll go over them as we get through. So we only had 166 serve days this year, so our lunches look like they're down, but in all reality, we actually served more per day, which tracks with increased participation. It's not on here, but our free and reduced numbers went down, just part of the economy, and it's hard to get people to apply for the lunches. We had a big push in October, which helped. We went from like 38 back up to 42, so that was a big help. So if you look, one of the typos is the breakfast number should be 618 average a day, and the lunch number should be 889 average a day. So, or 898. So it's actually an increase per day is pretty good for us.
But you know what? You go back to that. You go back to 2021, 22, where we had 165 days, which is the closest. That was during the pandemic when we were giving free stuff out too, right?
Actually, that was 21, 22.
Yeah.
Is where every kid was free. So
yeah. So that I can see
that's
the
why
numbers
that
were a lot
average
bigger.
is way
so
up.
that number just needs to be thrown out.
Yeah. And then if you scroll down a little bit, so that shows our breakfast lunch price this year was $205, $265, and $295. We held that steady last year because our program was actually in the black instead of break even, so DESI allowed that. But they don't recommend doing it 2 years in a row, even though we're a little bit in the positive this last year. So if you scroll down, we're going to raise prices 10 cents breakfast and lunch, so it'll be $2.15, $2.75, and $3.05 as part of the recommendations. We'll also raise a la carte prices, but I have to wait to get our bid prices back from our food service provider to see what they're going to be before I can.
So if we're in the black, why wouldn't we just go up a nickel or something like that?
Because the minimum, well, we can do that, but they recommend going up 10 cents because we're still way below the recommended price for what they want lunches to be.
And that goes to a calculator, DESI calculator.
Yes.
That kicks out what they recommendation. Now, it is a local decision.
Yeah,
They give
so if
guidance
you
on
guys,
that.
we could 100% just go in
That's
there.
one of your mistypes, right? The 205, that's 215.
Yes, that is.
Okay, just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Okay.
It's correct on mine. I corrected it on mine, correct.
You're good. I just want to make sure I was.
So yeah, again, if that's 100% fine with me, if you guys would like to go up to only a nickel. And then,
So when is that decision going to be? Not tonight, right?
no.
So I
Just
think that
before the
happens, when does that
school year.
decision get made? In August or August?
We can bring it around as quickly as July. Would be
Yeah.
fine.
So you'll have to work with Dr. Sowell and stuff?
Okay. Yeah, that's just based on, what I have to do for DESI, that was the recommendation based on our, the tool they use. So after the last follow-up, we had discussions with high school students about food, what we serve, things they like. Not like we used to do with the advisory committee meetings, which we're gonna bring, I'll talk to Jen, we're gonna bring those back next year, once before the move and once after the move. And see, and then we've had those in other schools also, so. And then Dawn came to me in March and asked if we could do breakfast back in the cafeteria. So we did those for the last 2 months. Numbers dropped a little bit, but we're gonna wait and see how that goes and see what we can do if it does drop to push breakfast out again for East. And then this year we were able to add the non-congregate meals back, which is where the people, you can come get food and take it home. Last time we did that was the 21-22 school year because they changed the program after that where they had to eat in building, and we tried it 1 year, we had nobody show up. We were feeding the staff kids, that was pretty much it. So, and as of 5 minutes before the meeting, we had 146 kids sign up for it, so that's actually really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. I think that's pretty much all I had.
I have no questions for Glenn. Beth?
I don't, thank you.
And thank you for the great job you do, Glenn.
Thank you for feeding them. Thank you.
I'm just happy they allowed that. They actually changed our designation from, we used to be designated urban, which took that ability away, and that DHSS our designation in now rural or Warrenton is urban, so it's, so we were able to
Really
add that back in.
How much did our free and reduced go down by?
We're hovering around that 40% mark. Without that big, actually I think we finished at 43. So without that big push in October, we dropped down to, I think, 38 or 39. So the more families we can get, even if you don't think, even if they don't think they can apply, the more families we can get to apply, the better it is.
And that's my concern. There's a group of kids that either qualify for free and reduced or right outside of it that their families struggle to feed them. And I know I mentioned this about a year ago, but the biggest impact on learning and scores is being fed. And I know it's very difficult to identify who those kids are and what we can do to help them, but it's just always on the back of my mind.
Yeah. that's why, again, that's, if you look at our numbers when it was all free, that's why those numbers are so high. And I'm a huge proponent of we should be, every kid should eat for free. I know there was legislation that was proposed last summer that was tabled, and not here, but, statewide, has never been redressed, so.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Okay, Glenn, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
All right, next item on the agenda is the budget amendment number 3, Dr. Berger.
Yeah, I'm throwing it right to Ms. Klaus, who has done all the heavy lifting on this. So,
Hello, good evening.
Ms. Klaus, would you like Elizabeth to put up anything?
Yeah, the fund summary page,
Fund summary.
please. If I can draw your attention down to the bottom. Maybe. It's gonna work today.
We can see it.
Go on down to budget amendment 3 for this, please.
So after budget amendment 3, you can see that we're projecting to end FY24 with a 27.62 fund balance reserve. I also do want to highlight the Fund 4 number there. We do still have a few of the GO bond money out there, so that is going to be restricted. If we optimize our transfers, we're hoping to end Fund 4 with about $9 million unrestricted. And then if you want to take a look at the explanation page. I'm sorry.
The explanation page. Close that tab. Yep.
Here I've highlighted all the significant increases and decreases in revenues and expenses for the FY24 budget. I did want to note that this compares the numbers to the original budget in June, so the amendments weren't taken into account. Any questions?
How about the, do you have the, for the expenses too?
Yeah, if you scroll on down there.
Scroll.
Okay, we have a question.
Sure.
Kyle, do you have a question? Oh, I thought I heard you, sorry.
Don't move your hand unless you're bidding. So we're wrapping up pretty strong, as you can see there. Everything's come through as we projected, but as we've made our 3 budget amendments, we're going to land at 27% balances in Fund 4. You can kind of plant that in your mind. $9 million what we anticipate. Now, as she said that, I'm going to underscore it. That's capitalizing on all the transfers that we can. We're pretty aggressive with that. We're hoping Madison from KPM goes along with us on that. But if it doesn't go into Fund 4, if we don't land at $9 million, you're going to land it. You're going to have higher reserves in operations. So the money doesn't go away. We're just trying to get it to Fund 4 because we know we're at our goal in operations, and we know in the future we're going to need to help subsidize projects. When we have bonding capacity or at least purchase capacity, if we have some local dollars to help subsidize that, it's going to be to our great advantage. So we're working hard to continue to try to move money into Fund 4 because part of the master plan it's going to be needed.
What's the concern with it maybe not landing in Fund 4?
We're limited on the amount of transfers we can do. In fact, I'll get something I'd never heard of when we were trying to get more money into Fund 4 as we were closing FY23. Madison and Veronica put their heads together and they went actually back to previous years' ASBRs and were able to capitalize on not all the transfers needed, but 3 years back, or was it 5? 5 years back. And I didn't even know you could go. I thought whenever you put that nail in the coffin, whenever you did your audit, you didn't touch that. Well, you don't normally, but you do have an opportunity to do that, and where there's still a little meat on the bone if we chose to do that again. So I don't know that we'll need to do that. I don't know that we'll want to, but Dr. Salvo and Ms. Klaus put their heads together on that. But we certainly, the effort will be to try to get that money into Fund 4. As long as we're at reserve balance, we need that money in Fund 4.
Thank you, Veronica.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the FY24 budget amendment number 3 is presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I heard 6-0. All right, the next one is
Sorry.
salary schedules. Recruitment and retention, correct?
Yeah, one of the most important things we do, and of course, obviously, it's the largest piece of our budget. We're a people business. So appreciate the questions and dialogue I had with individual board members in between meetings, because I know that's always a high interest topic for our board. As it's in our CSEP to recruit and retain teachers. It's a critical piece of what we do. So all the schedules with that 5%, or excuse me, with that increase applied, and I'll just read out the motion and see if there's any questions on that before solicit a motion. Motion to approve the 24-25 salary schedules, vertical and horizontal movement, 3% to the base salary schedules with an additional 1% to years 11 through 20, and an additional 1% to years 21 plus to the certified schedule. 5% base salary schedules to support staff and administration, market value increase for communications director. Try to field any questions the board might have on those.
Cal, any additional questions?
I'm good.
This is what our salary committee was happy with, correct? I mean, I
Correct.
know it
There's
is.
a consensus of the committee.
Confirming.
4 meetings in the spring, really good process for us, but yeah, absolutely.
The only comment I had, and I sent it back to you earlier this week, the how that base increase breakdowns through the lower steps.
Yeah,
I
through
want
the
to
schedule.
understand that.
Might be
Much
a good
more
topic of
over the
board
next
workshop,
year.
and also I'll tell you what else we can
What
do.
would be to-
MSBA typically has salary schedules like 101
Mhm.
type of a workshop that we can put that on our radar doing an MSBA. You can, not we. You can.
Yeah, last year, fine.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the salary schedule for 25.
So basically, what I heard you say, Heidi,
Sorry.
whatever the recommended action, that entire
Yes,
verbiage.
what he just said.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, who seconded that?
I did.
A motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I heard 6-0. Okay, next one I have on here is the leave policy change, recruitment and retention. This is essentially moving the 2 sick days to 2 personal days, and then decreasing the sick days by 2 days, correct?
That's right. Also came out of our salary committee, and we thought this was, the ask was actually moving a few more days to personal, but we were trying to strike a balance there, because if this is utilized more with our labor shortage and our sub shortage, that just creates more strain. And the committee was very understanding of our concern about that, so this was a nice move. Might open up one of those, they kind of mirror each other, but you'll see that how Elizabeth created this. So the green is what we're moving to, the red is what it was, so you had 9 sick days, so you're subtracting 2 sick days, and then if you scroll down, you'll see that she's just added those to personal, and of course you have more latitude on what you can do with a personal day versus a sick day. If this is for non-certified staff, everything else that you see marked up was just formatting that Elizabeth did, but she did mark that up for you to let you know there was a change, but there is nothing, fundamentally different. That's just formatting. And she can open up the second page, but if you looked at it, it's just for the professional staff, but it's the equivalent policy change.
And I think I had asked the question, Jeremy's not here anymore, is he?
Vacation on a beach somewhere, probably.
Okay,
Good for
because
her.
I think I asked the question, what was the fiscal note on this? I think we said 10,000 or something.
Yeah, that's what he projected, but it'd be.
Yeah, so the fiscal note on this, I think when we asked it before, was about 10,000. The other question is going to be is, can you find the subs? That's going to be, I think, the bigger one.
Yep.
But more importantly, can you keep the staff?
Yeah, I know, I get it. All right, so any questions for Dr. Berger on this one? Okay, we need a motion to approve the updates to GCBDA and GDBDA as presented per the salary committee's recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I heard 6-0. Next one is the FY '25 budget. Dr.
Yeah,
Berger.
I will start out on this one by saying you're going to be looking at a presentation that is actually fewer slides than last month, but there are a couple new slides, and I'll bring those to your attention. But I even should proceed saying that, in that this was, in my 4 years, the most that, certainly Connie and I did the budget together. Veronica had a much heavier hand in this year's budget. So appreciate your efforts on this, and so if we get any questions, I may have to also look out and have Veronica chime in. So we'll roll through this, but after we get through it, we can go back to any slides the board would like to and drill down. So again, our budget development goals, I know you see those frequently, each for 4 years now. Next slide, please. And just to remind you, this is kind of the budget construction process, and we are now down to that final check, June budget approval. Operations, I never miss an opportunity to kind of go back over this with you. So if you notice that operations, we're looking at 24%. A question that might come to your mind on our reserve balance is, well, why are we dipping in balances? Or does that mean that we are going to deficit spend in operations? We are not. We are anticipating, hopeful that we can transfer more money to Fund 4 to get closer to our board goal for balances. If I was guessing, just sitting in the seat today, I would say you may not get to 24%. I think it's going to be difficult to get that way, but to get all the transfers needed to get that money over there. But that's what we intend to do, and so that's what we want to set the budget up as. As you will remember, when you get into Fund 3, that's our general obligation bonds. We'll look at that on an upcoming slide. It's a new slide, but we anticipate to be at about the $3 billion balance. But remember, that's the low maintenance account of the principal and interest. That it is a separate account, separate bank account, but we don't do much with Fund 3 after we set the tax rate in August. Fund 4, you'll see we're right there at $7.7 million. So we are anticipating a deficit spend in our Fund 4 balances down from FY24, and I'll detail that just a little bit in an upcoming slide. Next slide. Veronica has went through these and updated them more accurately to this year's budget, but again, even whenever we were looking at this once again, it always makes me take pause and thinking, we have really moved from a state-funded school to a locally funded school in a relatively short period of time. And the writing on the wall says we're going to continue to be, you're going to see that number tick up into the high 70s potentially for FY26. And where we land, I don't know. But the assessed value is growing, and we're going to become less and less reliant on state revenues. The good news to that is typically local revenues are considered much more stable. So as there is thunder on the horizon with the state, and that thunder comes in FY26, we will be a little protected from that, meaning locally revenued school versus some of our, particularly those schools in our conference that, outside of maybe South Callaway, are all state-funded schools. So very good thing for us. Next slide, please. Revenue, so this is unchanged from last presentation, but we're looking at a 5% for new construction. I would hedge my bets that we'll outpace that. But what our strategy has been is we want to see the money come in. So as we will tick things up, as like if we went through a 2 or 3 year run where we were like 7 to 9% assessed value, of course, just looking at the local landscape, and we would tick our projections up, which may give us more revenue that we can count on. But if I was hedging bets like I say today, I'll bet we'll outpace the 5% assessed value increase.
So do you
we just
anticipate?
faced a slide that broke down the expenses of the operating expenses?
Expenses are what is it now? Which slide? I'm sorry.
My slide deck goes, unless I'm on the wrong presentation, goes the breakdown between.
I think you went too far.
Oh, I went too far.
That. Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
I thought
I was trying to catch up with you.
well, yeah, I think that slide's covered. Maybe I'm, yeah. And, okay, so then,
Throw it up there,
Prop
really.
C is good news too. That's a statewide sales tax despite it being coded locally, a $39 increase per WADA. But whenever you start adding that up to our WADA of 17 or 1,800 kids, that starts turning into some money. State revenues, at least moving into FY20, are everybody's very confident. So I anticipate FY25 to finish just as the state is budgeted. So again, a significant increase in our state adequacy target. As you can see, up from 63.75 to 67.60. Again, when you start putting that times our weighted ADA, that makes a difference. And we actually even had a tick up in our our DVM, our dollar value modifier, which basically is the cost of living index through the school's lens. So again, that's a good news. So we really had great news. Did I touch on it? Even the weighted ADA, on how that weighted ADA is calculated, because it's going to weight EL and free and reduce, those thresholds go down, which means that creates more weighted ADA. Everything from the state perspective for Wright City, those are all very, very favorable. Universally across the state, now transportation is more committed to being 75% of allowable expenses. When that first came around, which would have been 2 years ago, when the state funded what they consider full funding, which is 75% of the allowable expenses, that was a $500,000 increase for our district. That's what that meant. And so really pleased that that stuck. But I would anticipate, like if when we approach FY26, you'll start hearing that will be the first place that the state will look to cut as a categorical. Federal revenues are, just like they are every year, essentially flat. Probably the final note on ESSER, we probably won't have that in upcoming budget because it's kind of old news now. We are done with it, have been for some time. I snuck my little graphic down there just to give you, that relates to that state, the main revenue driver in the state. That's what's called the minimum formula. WADA times the SAT times the DVM minus the local effort from 2006. So from a long time ago, which also is to our advantage, is our state revenues. So really a really good fiscal outlook in terms on the revenue side.
With the fiscal forecast for the state and transportation, are any of our reserves earmarked for unplanned expenses, like something like transportation changing in the future, or would we have to modify our budget come that fiscal year?
The latter, we would modify it then. So as the budget's being developed next year, that's what we'll have our ear to the ground, because if they are going to make cuts on that, it's going to have to be subsidized, and it will be subsidized by local dollars. So that'll be fewer dollars into the classroom, and they're just supporting transportation. Something constitutionally that the state is supposed to pay 75% of the allowable expenses. That's a good question, but yeah, we'll make those adjustments next fiscal year going into that. And it could be that we may not know completely at that time, because they can certainly allocate the funds needed for that 75%, but they could be in FY26, and as they start running short, they'll just start making mid-year cuts, and that's when we'd have to make those adjustments through budget amendments.
What do you see as the passage of 727? There's going to be more requirements and with no funding.
Yeah. If you looked at just Wright City, and this is just Chris Berger talking, 727 does a ton of good things. The element of, we've had attendance struggles, for example, and so they're going to be slowly rolling in a membership element to that. In other words, just the nose of the kid that I've often referred to, as opposed to their ADA. That was put in there to benefit urban schools who have even greater attendance struggles than us. But as a rural school that really lags behind our counterparts with attendance, that's going to benefit us financially. And not to go down every one of them, but overall, a lot of good things. The concern on that, Mary, the major concern, is really for our rural counterparts, the schools that are in our conference, for example. So that we are already above the minimum salary requirements that are mandated by 727. So we're past that, but some of our rural school districts are not, and they're going to be subsidized by the state for FY25 only. And so the mandate for those minimum salary requirements doesn't go away, but the legislature has all but said, if next year we've got you, and the year after that, we don't know if we have you or not.
But that's
And that,
kind of roll back and hurt us on recruitment because
absolutely.
we were up, had a leg ahead with our recruitment of our higher starting salary and now.
That is right. It kind of closed that gap a little bit. So I'm going to try to re-articulate your point. If we're this far above minimum salary, which has been a great recruitment tool for us, and especially when we're looking at schools to our west, you know, in the EMO conference, well, the minimum salary requirements closed that gap. Now they still haven't caught us, but it closed that gap. And what's frustrating, a little frustrating, is who paid for that? The state through a salary grant. Now, you know, so that's a little frustrating for a school district like us that have really worked hard to focus on getting well above that state minimum. But they have their own like challenges. I know being a bit redundant here, but if the state doesn't fund those salary grants, they're going to go through major cuts in those school districts or go to their patrons with not 5 and 10 and 20 cent increases. It's going to be 50, 75 cents, $1 increases because they have no assessed value to multiply by. It's all agriculture. You know, they don't have they're not fortunate like us to have $300 million of AV, which is relatively high for a district our size. And then if you look at our forecast for assessed value growth is probably as explosive as there is in the state. You know, so those are good questions and good observations. We'll move on, Elizabeth. This is always a point I like to bring out to the board. Prop 6725, what we committed to our folks is a 445 levy. So our historical levy, there at 445 distributed at 325 in general fund that takes care of general fund and special revenue fund, teachers fund for operations, and $1.20 for debt service. Excuse me. FY23 was an unusual year because of ESSER dollars, but we maximized that. So we lowered our operational levy to 276 and increased our levy in capital projects. So what helped subsidize operations, that we lowered our levy down to 276, that was all of our ESSER dollars. And it allowed us to kind of get around the transfer rules and levy money into Fund 4 directly where we knew we were going to need it. So that left us in really good shape after maximizing those opportunities with ESSER. FY24 got more what we anticipate to be the norm moving forward. We bumped our operational levy back up to 323, $1.01 in debt service, capital projects. We ran it back down to the 21 cents that we always anticipated after Proposition 6725. But the key to remember is, if you look at the total of every one of those, 445, 445, 445, and that was the commitment to our folks. Give us the flexibility to put the money where we need it, but we're going to make this commitment to you to keep it at 445. If you look at FY25, we do not know yet. We do not have our assessed valuations in. I think next slide. We don't have our AVs in. We'll get those in July. The board will set the tax rate, but what we anticipate today is $323, $121, just like the previous year.
I know I asked this 3 weeks ago and I forgot.
Yep.
Our levy for debt, is that where the 21 cents for capital is coming from, or is it coming out of operation?
The 21 cents for
With capital.
the capital
Is that coming
projects.
out of the operating levy or the
It
debt
came,
levy?
when Proposition 6725 allowed us to lower our $1.20 that we used to run in debt service and transfer that 21 cents into Fund 4.
Okay.
Into Fund 4. So prior to props, we rarely ran any money in capital projects. We only relied on our transfers. Post props, we were able to actually run a levy in Fund 4. And the patrons, we had to go to our patrons to ask for that because debt service was set. Our commitment was we'll lower the debt service, but we had to ask our patrons to increase our overall levy, our operational levy and operations. So we could run that 21 cents.
Yeah, and that's so it's
in
coming out of operations.
In a sense it is, yes. But if you looked at like if you just kept it in its most simple form, that 21 cents came from the $1.20 we used to run in debt service.
Correct, yes.
It's just, it's a little weird, and I'm getting a little weedy here, but why then, you say, why is it $1.21? Well, we got rolled back, we got Hancocked back 1 cent in operations. So what do we do with that 1 cent? We put it on debt service. So the beauty of what Props did for us is it allowed us to keep a 445 levy, but it just gave us flexibility to put the dollars where we needed them. That was and when you're dealing with the often, I know, aggravating topic for Mr. Jones, capacity ceiling with general obligation bonds, 15% of your assessed value, this was a way of getting around that too, because now we can go out and go get lease purchase certificates to build our high school.
And you notice a new verb he used, Hancocked.
Hancock, yeah. I'm not the originator of that. We talked that.
Well, I know.
So
Well,
maybe new for you guys.
Yeah.
So our anticipated levy, again, 445 distributed just like that, and it'll be real close to that. If anything, the general fund can go down just a little bit, and of course if it does, we'll add that to the debt service so we can pay down that debt quicker. Our expenses and operations, Veronica's also updated this slide, and here again you see just the majority of our dollars are spent in Fund 1 and Fund 2, 27 million. And of course, the other thing that you might note is capital projects is just incredibly inflated. Anybody that took a quick look at that would know we had an issue going on, because very few districts with our size budget would have $22 million in Fund 4. You'd know that there had to be some general obligation proceeds coming out of there. Next slide, please. Expenses broke down again. And again, you heard me say earlier, or I think I said earlier, I certainly said it last month, 80% of our operational budget is going to be salaries and benefits. Next slide. So this breaks down just a little bit, a little more detail to that. So big salaries were set from the previous agenda item and tonight. We also had an increase in health insurance this year. After some pretty good years, we did take a pretty good wallop on the health insurance this year that equated almost to $200,000. I think that the district, and that will change a little bit year in, year out, but I think right off the top, whenever we start building the budget for the following year, you need to take about $350,000, set it aside as new expenditure for adding positions. Now, if the RSP projections, if we're under those, it could be less than $325,000. If the RSP projections are outpaced, it's going to be more than that. There are going to be some things that just come from need, like, for example, the EL teacher that's in this year's. That EL population, that might be a place that you have to consider another FTE. But remember, there are also, as a practice, we practice as just triggers. Whenever class sizes get larger than minimum standard from DESE, we bring that to you to say, hey, we've got to add a teacher. And really, we will do that virtually any time of the year. Obviously, it's better to do earlier than later, but we've kind of got to get whatever our new norm is going to be as we head into this decade of growth that appears inevitable that we're going to experience.
And this is in addition to any adds in the semester, right?
It is, yeah. Next slide, please. Recommended motion on the previous slide. We can blow by that one. Capital expenditure. This is more of the routine just some highlights of the $250,000 that we allocate to Dr. Way to spend in just really maintenance of capital expenditures. So as you can see, a lot of that is like restoration, flooring for West Elementary, and the asphalt work that we're doing, with just a couple of new adds that he's got budgeted in there.
I think going back to Kyle's question earlier, I think what Kyle was going to is we had a unplanned capital expenditure, like refrigeration system went out or something like that. Was that part of the budget, like those unplanned expenditures? Did you put something in there for that? Or is that something we just have to approve as it happens?
It's something that you typically approve that it's happened now. Dr. Way's done a good job in his 5-year plan, where in consulting with, for example, HVAC, that was whenever we knew that cooling tower at the middle school was on its last leg. So we actually budgeted that. We didn't wait for failure. So we try to get out ahead of those things. But yeah, if we have something that's just completely blindsides us, we don't have a contingency fund to catch that. You know?
So basically what happens is then the superintendent will come to us and say, hey, look, XYZ failed, we're gonna have to modify the budget for $30,000 to fix Y.
That's correct. A sinkhole, you know, which isn't too much up here that happened. Sinkholes used to not be covered by music insurance. After a big incident in southern Missouri, Mountain View Liberty School District, they are now covering that. But so it's kind of a bad example. But if we had a sinkhole that occurred, you know, at one of our athletic complexes, that's got to be fixed. It's got, you know, and we would come to you and ask for the dollars to do that. Now, remember I said we don't do that. You know, we don't have contingency, with the exception of next year. So next slide, I think it's on the next slide.
You lied to me.
Well, I did sort of, I kind of misled. So this we termed reserve capital expenditure. So I introduced this to you last month, but I also added some things that were more known. So, but the one thing that is the contingency is the Wright City High School transition. So what we're asking, because we have adequate fund for reserves, is that we're going to allocate $500,000 for the issue of the day that was overlooked, or it could be whatever. Now, you're not writing a blank check to the administration. I want to be clear on this. Every expenditure that comes out at $500,000 comes through the bills process, and so you will be approving that. But that money is approved for the administration to know that they've got $500,000 to work with. The one example I gave you last month that we know is in there is the $80,000 paver project. But we know not in our micro budget that there's $80,000 going to come out of that. The good news is the Booster Club is going to write $40,000 back to us. So the other three line items were known. The athletic equipment, which Bo did an exceptional job on this because we acquired that from the majority of that's track equipment. And we acquired that as demo equipment that was used one time for the state track competition. So he negotiated that out, and we got that at a huge discount. The technology equipment, we maximized every E-rate we could, those opportunities. But in the end, we're still on the hook for $305,000 of technology for the new high school. Again, that athletic equipment, technology equipment, those are known expenses since the time we knew we were going to build a high school. The good news on the greenhouse, $270,000, but we did qualify for the enhancement grant, so we expect to get approximately 50% of those dollars back. So that just gives us a little more truer, I guess, outlook of, we think, and I'd be surprised if we spend the whole $500,000, but we do think through that transition there's going to be several things that come up that are certainly outside the contract. The contractors have left, that we're going to want to come to you and say, hey, we need this. Next slide. This is kind of a tool we use with the salary committee, because basically it is much, much more complicated than this, but if you really break it down to the major revenue drivers, what we do with our committee is say, hey, we've got this much in new revenue, and the board's priority is to get as much of that as we can to the salary schedule in that effort of recruitment and retention. So as you can see on coming into this year, on the expenditure end of that, we were going to have $1 million of our new revenue that's going to be expended in the salary schedule and market value increases. And salary increase, salary increases and ads. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Salary increases. Insurance, as it was on the previous slide, almost $200,000. Staffing, you see that $325,000. New facility utilities, which that is something we don't always bring to the salary committee, but because we were opening up a new facility, obviously, we said this has got to come out of operations. If we weren't building a new school, the $120,000 we could allocate to the salary schedule. And the transportation rate and added routes of $560,000.
So the state revenue transportation, so the state of Missouri is funding just as much for transportation in fiscal year 25 as they did 24?
They are, yeah. Those increases in the expenditures, you can see the revenue, we get nothing. But the expenditure for our new contract is pretty expensive. It's a combination of renewing and getting it, and we are paying a higher rate, but it also is that we're adding routes with our growth. Combination of both things. So you see, when we tell the committee, we don't care, 30, we're not trying to get perfectly level to zero. We just got to probably be in about a $50,000 swing. And here we were at a $34,000 positive, and that's what we're trying to achieve. Next slide, please. We added this slide, Prop 67 and 25. Your general obligation principal and interest is indicated in that top snip, and our lease purchase payments are down there below. Next slide. Projected fund balance. So if this mapped out perfectly, just as we wrote the budget, and it will not, we would end at 24% reserves, and we would end in $7.7 million in Fund 4. And that's if we spent everything that we budgeted right now, and we the revenues came in just as we budgeted those. As you know, we are quite conservative in our revenue projections and try to be right on the nose on expenditures. So we do have a very fiscally conservative approach, and that will change as we move into the future. Like I said, as we get more consistent AV growth in consistent years, we'll be taking that up, and the decisions will be made where to appropriate those dollars in the future. But I anticipate 25 to be a really good year, and so I think if I was hedging bets sitting here today, it depends on where your transfers goes, but you're going to have that combined money of what the ending balances of operations of 6.7 million. You're going to have that 7.7 million. I'm going to say you're going to have that at least. It's just going to be where you can push it. Are you going to have it in Fund 4, or are you going to keep it in operations? Next slide, please, which I think is it.
Yeah, you need to get rid of that Twitter and put X up there.
That picture was taken my first day at Wright City. I've used it for 4 years now, and have a little more gray in my beard if I grow it out, as you guys noted before I shaved it.
Okay. Kyle, any additional questions on the budget? Any specific line item in the budget you want to question? Because now's the time to do it, in case otherwise the money's kind of, like you said about the 500,000. We're authorizing expenditures.
Okay.
Heidi?
I'm good.
I have none.
All right. I'm good. So,
Thanks for your work on that. Good job.
Thank you very much.
okay. So there's a motion to approve the FY25 budget as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I heard 6-0. Okay, next is the end of year building reports, code of conduct. Any questions on the West CSIP? East? High school? EC and special education? And the middle school. The only general comment I made to Chris on this was I noticed behavioral issues in the various schools was ticking up a little bit, and so that's something we're going to have to. And I noticed the principals noticed it, and so that they're going to have to something I'm going to have to work with next year. Other than that, that was the only generalized trend I saw. Okay. Anything else anybody want to add to that? Okay. Consent agenda. Is anybody related to anybody in employment? Okay, nobody's related to anybody. Does anybody want to pull anything from the consent agenda? Okay. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I heard 6-0. In accordance with Section 610.021, the revised statutes of Missouri, the R2 Board of Education will meet in closed session to discuss 3 personnel and 13 individually identified personnel records. I need that motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Roll call. Starting with me. Yes?
Yes.
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 This. Okay, we are at ease for 5 minutes.
These.